So Mahmoud Mamdani explains apartheid very simply, and he says that it's as two different legal systems for two different peoples, or multiple in the case of South Africa. Basically, non-whites was the group of people, I guess. But in South Africa, you had civil law, which we all live under here, and almost every Western country you live under. However, in the Bantustans, which are the tribal homelands in South Africa, they lived under customary law. They were limited in terms of freedom. They couldn't do the things that white people would do. And people will focus on the apartness of apartheid. But in my opinion, apartheid isn't just about racism. Apartheid was a system of exploitation set up for a reason in South Africa that was defined by economic interests of white people who were there. So in terms of Palestine, you kind of have three different varying degrees of apartheid. Now, in terms of being in the Gaza Strip, that is the most extreme because their Palestinians are almost entirely cut off from everyone else. It's not its own independent thing. It's occupied by the state of Israel. They control what goes in or out. In 2014 or the early 2010s, they were found to be able to control the amount of calories that Gazans or people living in the Gaza Strip were having. And this, general experience of apartheid there is also related to things like lower life expectancy in the Gaza Strip, higher infant mortality, and more generally just a worse standard of life in spite of the fact that, settlers and Israelis live incredibly close to the Gaza Strip. And then you find the West Bank, which has probably the more egregious or the way which people would actually be able to understand apartheid. So in Hebron, for example, the situation is ridiculous. Palestinians cannot use the same roads that settlers do. They live completely separately from them. A street called Shahuda or Shahada Street, I can't remember which, was closed and welded shut in 1994 in response to an Israeli who massacred Palestinians, 29 of them in a mosque, Baruch Goldstein, and then they responded to this. So that's where you would see it more like South Africa, where it really feels like, wow, this is keeping people separate and doing this in a certain kind of way. And also with the West Bank more generally, the limits on movement on everyone